just outside the US ambassador's residence in London, where President Trump and the First Lady are hosting a banquet attended by the Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall, among others. We've had a day of President Trump's rather unique style of international diplomacy, meeting Nigel Farage, phoning Boris Johnson, urging Britain to get on with Brexit, and branding Jeremy Corbyn a negative force whose invitation to meet he shunned. And as thousands of anti-Trump protesters took to the streets, he said all he'd seen were people waving American flags. The demonstrations were, he said, fake news. Well, joining me are Nile Gardiner, foreign policy analyst and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, and Quentin Peel, associate fellow with the Europe programme at Chatham House. Nile Gardiner first. I mean, don't be fooled by the pomp. The special relationship isn't as special as it was.
I think it's pretty special, and I'm living in Washington at this time, and I have to say that the special relationship remains the most powerful partnership on the world stage. And without a doubt, this special relationship will continue for many decades to come. It's in good shape today. I expect it will grow from strength to strength, especially with a new Conservative Prime Minister coming in, a new Brexiteer Prime Minister, who's probably going to develop, I think, a closer relationship with President Trump. But I would say that there's a great need on the world stage for US and British leadership at this time.
And that's what we didn't have today, with a divisive president and a lame duck prime minister. That leadership was lacking, wasn't it?
Well, I think that there's very strong US leadership in place at the moment. I think that Theresa May has been a very disappointing prime minister, and hopefully her successor will be a far stronger PM on the international stage. But I do think that US leadership is very robust at this moment and is very much in place, actually, and that will continue to be the case in the coming years.
When you heard Theresa May well, she looked like she was chewing a wasp in that press conference, didn't she? And you've got Donald Trump being, pretty dishing out advice on who should be the next Prime Minister. What did you make of whether that relationship between the US and the UK can transcend this little local difficulties?
I am much more pessimistic, I think, about what the relationship can be. For a start, the great hope of this whole visit was somehow to get a wonderful trade deal out of the US for the UK after Brexit. Well, it's not going to be like that. For a start, they won't even be able to start talking about it till we know what the relationship is with Europe. And secondly, we have a very large trade surplus with America, and that's precisely what Donald Trump hates. So he's going to want a deal where he gets a lot more trade out of it than the UK does. So it's very difficult.
But surely we've got very little choice after Brexit. We're more economically dependent on the US. Plus, don't forget the military dependence, security dependence, and we've got a reminder of that with the D-Day commemorations tomorrow.
Yes, that's all there. But this relationship has really been quite scratchy for a long time. It goes quite deep in Britain, I think, to be a bit mistrustful of Washington. I find all this pomp and circumstance is really just putting lipstick on the tiger, if you like. I don't think the reality is anything like as deep. And having watched the rest of Europe and the importance which America gave to Germany particularly and France over the last 2 decades, I don't think Britain can really get back in there.
Is the UK still America's most trusted EU ally?
Well, Britain is America's closest friend and ally on the world stage altogether, and there's no country in Europe that compares with British influence in Washington. And Germany certainly is a declining force. The Germans don't carry much clout actually in Washington at this time. I think there's an intrinsic US distrust, I think, for any French president actually, whereas I think with a British Prime Minister, the Americans are always, I think, looking to work together with the United Kingdom. So Britain's by far the most influential player in Washington at this time.